Hello guys, and welcome to a new video. I'm Rainer, and I'm gonna explain you the strategy that I used to get my own Heatran on the Heatran Raid on PokéMMO. So first of all, what you have to understand is that there's a lot of strategies that work right now. For example, Rage said that technically it works that you can use a support as Sumaril with Captivate and all of these utility moves because Subseeker to ignore Solar Beam and because yours is Magma Storm, you don't get targeted. So that can work. However, I'm gonna show you what's the strategy that I and my friends use to get our Heatrans and what we believe is the most consistent one because what I've seen, let's compare it to other strategies. I don't believe in the Pelipper dream, mainly because the Pelipers get one shot by Power Gem and they're rock weak when you have to send them out turn 3 for the Defog. So I'm not a believer in that, and I much rather prefer to have a Politoed. And also, using ground type moves on the first half, while it may be tempting to use, I believe that it's easier to get fighting types. Yeah, I know people have Garchomp, have Excadrill, have Mammothine, a lot of these ground types that they can use in the first half. I understand that, but like, first of all, they don't benefit from the magma field because they get burned and then they don't do max cap damage, which is the main problem. However, when we use the specific strategy, we actually use the magma in our favor for the most part. Let me explain now. Okay, so the strategy, you see that the page that I'm showing right now says Heatran Raid player 1, and that's because technically all 4 players cannot use the same 6 Pokemon because you need some utility in the party. And also because technically you have to order the team on a team order so that you can orientate better. So for example, player 1. Okay, so what are the requirements on the fight? First of all, you need to remove the Heatran's leftovers because they, for some reason, heal full amount. They heal the 6.25% each turn, even though it's a raid. So you have to remove it. Any form of removal works. There's Covet, Thief, Switcheroo, and Trick. Those are the 4 moves that can, and Knockoff. Those are the 5 moves that can remove leftovers from Heatran. And if you want to use the strongest one, which is Technician Boosted Covet, the best user is Ambipom. It dies to Magma, doesn't do any move because it's super frail, so you don't have to worry about that. You don't even need a 31 in speed. You just need 31 in attack, Adamant Nature, and invest the EVs on attack and speed. Even without 31 speed, with a 0 speed IV, if you're not Brave Nature and you invest the speed EVs, just speed hit on anyway. So there you go. You can do it very cheap, the removal. Obviously, people can have a Weavile. If you have a Weavile, it's fine. If you have a Linoon with Thief or Covet, it's fine. If you have your Thief Bayonet, your Thief Yanmega, whatever you have that outspeeds Heatran, it's good enough. I'm just mentioning Ambipom because it's the one that does the highest damage. It does, on average, it does 0.4%, which is 4 times more the amount that every other removal will do, because normally the rest of the item removers will do 0.1%, but if you can do 0.4, that's better. You all 4 players also you need a way to remove the magma field and the stealth rocks. I say both of them at the same time because it's better to plan ahead and proc stealth rock and then remove the stealth rock and the magma at the same time, rather than remove magma turn 1 and then have to deal with stealth rock on the rest of the fight. You need rain at the most of the time because you want to prevent magma storm from being clicked, or at the worst scenario, in case it clicks magma storm, that solar beam is a 2-turn move. It requires 2 actions to use instead of only require 1 action because they're sunny. It's sunny outside. I'm gonna show you the 3. I'm gonna have the page in the description so you can see what exactly each player needs to have. You can interchange which player has which Pokemon, but you have to have the total of them, all of them, combined between all 4 players. The Pokemon that are mandatory are for Milotic, for Heracross, for Suicune, and 4 Politoed. Those are the mandatory ones that all players should have. This is because in turn 2, we're sending the Heracross on the magma field so that they get burned, activating guts, and thus getting the cap damage with only an expert belt. Or the black belt. Both work. You can also use a fist plate if you have the plates. I wouldn't recommend using another item like that because you will do overkill damage, and that means that you're wasting an item slot that you could use elsewhere. For example, if you give it a choice band, it's useless because you're already doing cap damage with only a 20% boost rather than a 50% boost. Yeah, pretty much that. The mods that change are Ambipom, you need 1 item remover. Medicham, you need 3 on the lead slot so that you can do 12% instantly to Heatran. You need 1 Infernape for turn 3. Mainly because Infernape has 2 things here that work. It has close combat with fighting gem so that it does 3.5%, which is almost cap damage, which is good enough. And also, it has fake tears because I'm gonna explain in a bit. I'm gonna explain what are the mechanics that the Heatran fight has. But the gist of it is that the fake tears help with the last part of the fight. That's the TLDR, pretty much. And also, you will need 3 Rotom-W. The reason why is because it's a late you need 2 in the front, and also because the player that will, if the 4th player that will provide only damage, most probably, the 4th best candidate for this, considering the items were already occupying on other slots, is Rotom-W. Why? Very simple. Rotom-W can tank 3 hits. It has all of the utility moves you need. It has Defog in case you need to send it turn 3. It has Light Screen so that Milotic doesn't have to use Light Screen. And it has Rain Dance, same thing, so that Milotic doesn't have to use Rain Dance. So the list of Pokemon, I'm going to leave them in the description as well. The total amount of Pokemon you need, it's 1 item remover, 1 Infernape, 3 Rotom-W, and then the rest of the Pokemon are mandatory for Heracross, for Politoed, for Milotic, and for Suicune. Now, onto the strategy. Turn 1, as you can see, we have an item remover because we need to remove the leftovers, and then the other 3 players are going to have Choice Band Medicham to do max damage with close combat. After that, all 4 die. You send the Heracross turn 2 because the magma field is active, so you activate guts, you send close combat, you do another 16%, and then, okay, so that's the first 2 turns. Then turn 3, what you're gonna do is the Infernape player is gonna send Infernape. And from the other 3 players, you have to do the following. 2 of the 3 remaining players have to send Rotom and Defog. And the 4th player will send out Politoed, but more precisely, it will send out Boots Politoed. Why Boots? Mainly because Politoed, the same as Rotom-W, can tank 3 attacks. So, but because the magma field does 25% and the rocks do 12.5, if you don't have the boots up, you will take the damage and will die in 2 hits. So to circumvent that, it's better to have the boots so that you get 3 hit KO instead of 2 hit KO by Heatran. And this is very important because we want to be able to have as much bulk as possible on our Pokemon to be able to tank the most attacks possible from Heatran so that we can constantly attack over and over and over and over again. So that's why the boots. So whoever is not sending a Rotom turn 2 needs to send a Politoed and they have to assign their boots to the Politoed. Okay, understood. What you're gonna do turn 3 is that Infernape is gonna close combat with Fighting Gem. The 2 Rotoms are gonna defog so that they can completely remove the magma field and the rocks while also lowering the Heatran's evasion by 2 so that every Hydro Pump is now perfectly accurate because according to some people, defog is only reducing the evasion, is only increasing the accuracy of moves by 10% on raids, at least on the Heatran raid. So the double defog on Heatran not only removes them, but also makes Hydro Pump a guaranteed move to hit. And then for the Politoed player with the boots, he's gonna click Hydro Pump, because it's the highest damage. And also because Politoed is lower than Rotom-Wash, so after the Rotom-Washes use Defog, Politoed is gonna move last from the 4 Pokemon you have, because Infernape is gonna be the fastest. You use Defog twice with both of the Rotoms, and then Politoed hits. So that every Pokemon moved and you didn't waste any attacks. And the moment that the Politoed Hydro Pump hits, it will activate the Heatran Roar at 66%, and everything will get switched out. That's the only 3 turns that you can play consistently this fight, because the Roar now is gonna send at random Pokemon. It can send the... Now, the good thing about having Infernape on the 3rd slot and being roared out is that you have guaranteed access to Infernape later in the fight, which is gonna be important. Also, why are we using fighting types in the first half and then we're using water types in the second half? For that, we have to explain the mechanics of Heatran. So, the threshold moves that Heatran uses throughout the whole battle are the following. At the start of the battle, he uses the Magma Pool, which sets the fiery floor, which does 25% to every non-grounded Pokemon, and also burns them if they're not a fire type. If they're a fire type, they're immune to the Magma Field. If they levitate or they're flying type, they're also immune to the Magma Field. Keep that in mind. At 80%, it's gonna use Stealth Rock. At 66%, around 66%, it's gonna use Roar. At 50%, it's gonna use Iron Defense, so we don't want to use physical attackers after the first half. That's why that's one of the reasons we're using fighting types in the first half. And at 40%, it's gonna use a new mechanic that they added with the Christmas Raid, Adaptation. What Adaptation does is that whichever move type the Raid Pokemon was hit with the most is gonna become a resist. No matter if it was an immunity for some reason, if it was a neutral attack, if it was super effective. It's gonna become a resist. So this is why we're using 8 close combats in the first half. Because after you hit the close combat 8 times, to activate Adaptation afterwards, you just require 7 water moves. And that's perfectly calculated so that it always adaptates fighting. So that we don't get hindered by our water moves becoming resisted on the second half. That's very important. And at 25%, it's gonna use a protective shield. What this does is that it reduces the incoming damage by 75%. The only way to bypass this is by reducing the Heatran's defensive stats. And that's why we have fake tears on Infernape. By the way, this is the only Pokemon that can do this. Blaziken is the only other fighting type that can technically do close combat onto the Heatran turn 3. However, it doesn't learn fake tears. It doesn't learn any move that reduces special defense. Infernape does. So this is why we're using Infernape here, because not only provides the close combat for the adaptation, but also provides effectives for the protective shield. And now for the moveset idea and the names of the water types. So now let's organize the water types into categories. We have to order them so that we know which Pokemon is moving before which other Pokemon. The way I order this is that whichever Pokemon has the most damage output, best survivability, and also their limited utility. So, the fastest out of all of this is gonna be Rotom-Wash. Even though this is the strongest Hydro Pump out of all of these Pokemon, Rotom-Wash only has Hydro Pump as water type damage. It doesn't learn Brine. It doesn't learn Weather Ball. It only has Hydro Pump. That's why we want the Rotom-Wash to be the fastest. Because, so that if the raid is below half HP, Milotic and Suicune can do more damage than it. That's pretty much it. And also, it has all of the utility moves above. It has Defog, it has Light Screen, and it has Rain Dance. So if another Pokemon doesn't have to use them, the better. And also, Rotom Wash doesn't have it has the worst bulk out of all of these Pokemon, so it also like through 3 hits. But compared to Politoed, Rotom is less important because Politoed itself has the Drizzle ability, which activates the rain. And we need the rain to be able to deter the Heatran Raid from using both Solar Beam with no recharge and Magma Storm. So that's why Rotom is the fastest. That's why it says 257 here. Also, technically for Rotom and for Milotic, you can flex the nature. If you have a calm Milotic, it works. If you have a gentle Milotic, which reduces defense and increases special defense, it also works. If you have a mild Milotic, it works. If you have a hasty, timid, modest, or mild Rotom, it also works. I'm just showcasing the best optimized nature for each Pokemon. That's all I'm showing. Technically, you can use, and look, also you can use mild nature on Suicune if you cannot afford to buy a modest Earth. That's also fine. That's why we want to do Rotom fastest. We are not giving Rotom a Water Gem because Rotom normally can get 2 Hydro Pumps off before dying. And doing 2 Hydro Pumps for 3.6 to 3.7% damage compared to 1 Hydro Pump for 4% and 1 Hydro Pump for 3% is better. And also, not only you are not consuming a gem, you are also playing around if you get crits. If you are lucky and get crits with the Splash Plate, you are on average doing more damage than if you get a crit using Water Gem. Because if you get the crit on the Water Gem, it's overkill. But if you get the crit on the on the wasted Water Gem, so no item, it's better compared to if you get the crit with Splash Plate. No matter in which turn you get the crit, it's good. Second up, which is the second fastest, is gonna be Milotic. Same reason as Rotom. The difference here is that Milotic wants to be slower than Rotom because it has better survivability, better damage output because it has Brine, and it wants to be faster than Politoed and Suicune because it also has the utility moves. It has Light Screen, it has Helping Hand, it has Rain Dance. If you can breathe Rain Dance onto the Milotic, do it. If you want to buy a different TM than Helping Hand, buy Rain Dance. That's pretty much it. I had Helping Hand here because technically you can get it by breeding Milotic with other Pokemon, but I will recommend better to have Rain Dance. I will make sure that the paste has Rain Dance instead of Helping Hand. Don't worry. Then next up, which is the third fastest, is gonna be Politoed. Politoed has the least amount of damage output out of all of these Pokemon. However, it has the Drizzle ability. And because of that, we need to prioritize its survival, or at least the damage. And also, we need Politoed to be slower than Rotom for turn 3 anyway, so that works. The moveset on Politoed is gonna be Hydro Pump, Weather Ball, and Rain Dance. Earth Power is here for only the boots Politoed. If only the boots Politoed needs heavy with Earth Power. The rest of the Politoed with Choice Specs don't need it. And also, this is the Pokemon that's gonna get the Choice Specs, by the way. The Politoed is gonna be holding the Choice Specs. Timid nature on Politoed is mandatory because if you don't have the speed boosting nature, you are outsped by Heatran. Let it be a reminder, you are forced to use a speed boosting nature on Politoed to outspeed Heatran. Okay? Understood? Good. Technically, you can do hasty nature, but if you do hasty, you are gonna get hit super hard by superpower Torkoal. So I will really recommend using Timid. And finally, the slowest of them all is gonna be Suicune. Why Suicune? Well, mainly because not only is the bulkiest Pokemon out of all of these Pokemon, but also because Suicune doesn't have any of the utility moves. It has Rain Dance, yes, but it doesn't have Light Screen to help out the team. So, because it doesn't have the utility moves that we need on Suicune, and it's the bulkiest, it's better to have a Soul Vest. Because then it's gonna tank more attacks and thus get more attacks off. If I remember correctly, Suicune can tank up to 5 hits, which is very good. So if you can get 5 Brines or 5 Hydro Pumps, I mean, you are only using Hydro Pump when there's the evasion drop from the Defogs, and if the Heatran is above 50% HP. Otherwise, you spam Brine. Always. Because Brine does in damage if the Pokemon is at less than half HP. Now, this is pretty much a strategy. Also, one of the main things you have to do is that after the roar happens, which is the first, is gonna become the second part of the battle, you have to coordinate between with your team on which Pokemon needs to be sent out. If you need to, if there's no rain active, one of the players need to send out a Politoed. You also prioritize using your Rotoms as fast as possible. If you can use your Rotoms as quick as possible, do it. Because the Rotoms because they have limited utility, because the evasion drops will go away after a few turns. So it's best to send the Rotoms as quick as possible. That's one quick tip I need to give out also. And finally, for the Infernape player, save the Infernape until the raid activates the protective shield. Don't send it before then. Only send the Infernape when these two conditions met. First, your Pokemon faints, so that you send it out on a clean turn. And second, when the Heatran activates the protective shield. Otherwise, do not send the Infernape out. Do not risk the Infernape dying to Earth Power. It's not worth it. You need the fake tears for the protective shield. And I think that's pretty much it. As I said, Rotom and Milotic have 4 viable natures each. The Politoed is forced to be timid. The Milotic, I will really say it's forced to be modest, but you can use the mild nature herb if you really need to cheap out on the nature. Other than that, IVs, it's recommended to be perfect on at least special attack and speed, and very good on the bulk. I will really also say that your Rotom needs to also be like 4 IV, because it's the frailest out of all of them, and it really needs the perfect IVs to survive 3 attacks, even after rocks. So please, I would really recommend you, if you want to be as consistent as possible, to have a 4 IV Rotom with HP, special attack, special defense, and speed. Milotic can be 2 times 31 on special attack and speed. The HP and special defense need to be 25 plus. The Suicune needs to be perfect. If you don't have a perfect Suicune, I will shoot you, because, bro, Rainbow Quills are 1k each. You cannot skimp out of that. You cannot. You cannot tell me you are saving money with that. You are not. It's very cheap to give perfect IVs to the Suicune. Like, I understand if you want to give it the mild air of nature, I understand that, because modest is quite cheap, it's quite expensive. But not giving perfect IVs to the Suicune is actually a crime. You should do it, always. And for the Politoed, 31 special attack and speed is mandatory. And I will also recommend 25 plus on HP and special defense, because if you don't, you won't be able to tank 3 attacks from Heatran and will die to 2. As for the Ambipom, the Heracross, the Medicham, and the Infernape, they can be 2 times 31 attack speed with any attack boosting nature that is not brave. And the defenses don't matter. The defenses don't matter. You're fine with those. That's pretty much it for the guide. I don't have a visual gameplay because I already got my Heatran and I'm on cooldown. But most probably I'm gonna get a visual gameplay of this next week when I do my refight on Heatran to get more magma rocks. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you can do your Heatran as easy as I did. See ya!